Jason Green sat hunched over his desk, staring at the data on his screen. The glow of the monitors highlighted the weariness in his eyes, a tiredness that had settled in after years of chasing scientific mysteries in the far corners of the galaxy. As an exobiologist, Jason had dedicated his life to studying alien civilizations, but not in the way most people might expect. While others looked for peaceful interactions, fascinating cultures, or technological marvels, Jason's focus was purely scientific, cold, logical, and detached. He had little interest in the unbelievable stories that some of his colleagues liked to tell, tales of alien species that could bond with humans, telepathic connections between races, or galaxies uniting in peaceful alliances. These were things Jason found absurd. There was always a rational explanation, a scientific theory that could explain it all. In his world, emotions had no place. There was only the pursuit of knowledge, backed by facts and evidence. So, when Maris Valen walked into the lab that day, looking as agitated as Jason had ever seen her, he didn't quite understand why she was so upset. "Jason, you need to stop being so stubborn," she said, her voice firm but tinged with frustration. "This is bigger than you think." The X-Wrath didn't just study other species, they bonded with them. It's how they evolved. Jason shook his head, muttering, "I've been through this before." The idea that some alien species has the power to bond with humans telepathically, emotionally, however you want to put it, is just fantasy. If it was real, we'd have proof by now. Maris crossed her arms. "You think everything can be explained by data, Jason. But not everything in this universe fits into neat little boxes. Sometimes, things are beyond our understanding." "We are beyond our understanding," Jason scoffed. "You're being overly dramatic. It's just wishful thinking, Maris. You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. I stick to the facts." "Facts?" she asked with a bitter laugh. "You know how many of the X-Wrath artifacts we've uncovered? How many species in the galaxy have tried to form connections, only to fail? The X-Wrath did it, Jason. They succeeded where everyone else failed, and they're gone now." The last part of her sentence hung in the air, heavy and grim. Jason could see it in her eyes. Something had shifted in Maris. She wasn't just frustrated anymore. She was genuinely concerned. Still, he wasn't about to give in. "I'm not some gullible rookie who believes in fairy tales," Jason replied sharply. "You've got to stop letting this obsession cloud your work. Focus on real data, not theories." Maris's face hardened, her frustration building. "Fine," she said, turning toward the door. "But don't come crying to me when you realize you were wrong. You won't even see it coming." Jason didn't take her warning seriously. He'd been hearing Maris talk about alien bonds for months now. It was like a broken record. To him, it was all nonsense, nothing more than an emotional theory with no hard evidence to back it up. But when the message arrived, it was impossible to ignore. It came in the form of a hologram, shimmering in front of Jason's desk. The figure that appeared was alien, but its features were surprisingly humanoid. The message was simple: a request to meet at a set of coordinates deep within the galaxy, where an ancient X-Wrath research station lay abandoned. The voice on the recording sounded distant, almost mechanical, yet there was an unmistakable warmth to it. "We have been watching you, Jason Green," the voice said. "Come to us, and we will show you the truth." Jason frowned. The voice seemed familiar, but it wasn't one he recognized. He'd never heard of anyone using his name like that, especially not in an official capacity. The mention of the X-Wrath only made him more skeptical. Why would an alien species be trying to contact him? What was the point? He immediately began running checks on the message's source, but nothing came up. It didn't look like a trap, at least not one he could detect. There was no interference in the transmission, no signs of any hidden agenda. It felt almost too perfect, too clean. The skeptic in him told him to ignore it. It was probably a prank, some elaborate hoax designed to lure him out into the deep reaches of space. But another part of him, the curious part, the part that always pushed him to question everything, told him to go. After all, he was a scientist. What if there was more to it? What if this was the proof Maris had been talking about all along? Jason sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Could this be some kind of test? Or worse, was he falling into a trap? He wasn't sure. But what he did know was that this wasn't something he could just ignore. He grabbed his jacket, stuffed the coordinates into his ship's navigation system, and made up his mind. A few hours later, Jason's ship was cruising through the stars, headed toward a set of coordinates that felt both dangerous and exciting. Deep down, he couldn't help but wonder if this was exactly what Maris had been talking about. He tried to dismiss it, but her words lingered in his mind. The universe has ways of making people face the truth they're unwilling to see. I think you might be about to learn that lesson. He didn't believe her. Not yet. But he was about to find out. The journey to the distant location took longer than expected, but that was nothing new for space travelers. Jason occupied his time with research, trying to dive deeper into Ixrath history. Despite his skepticism, he couldn't help but find himself drawn to the records he'd studied earlier. If there was even a shred of truth to what Maris had said, then he had to be prepared. When he finally reached the coordinates, the sight before him was both beautiful and eerie. He arrived at an isolated moon, dark and silent. With towering ruins scattered across its surface, the research station sat at the heart of the ancient remains, a massive structure that seemed to pulse with a quiet energy. Jason docked his ship, his heart pounding with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. As he stepped onto the surface of the moon, the wind howled across the barren landscape. But Jason barely noticed. His eyes were locked on the station ahead, an imposing structure that seemed to hold centuries of secrets. It was clear the place hadn't been touched in millennia, but there was something about it that felt alive, as if it was waiting for him. The heavy air weighed down on his chest, but his steps grew more confident as he approached the station's entrance. He took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The door to the station slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the dimly lit interior. Jason stepped inside, immediately aware of the vast emptiness. Every inch of the place felt untouched, as if it had been frozen in time. Suddenly, a soft glow flickered in the distance, drawing Jason's attention. His eyes narrowed as he made his way toward the source, his every instinct screaming that something or someone was waiting for him. As he reached the center of the room, the light intensified, and there, standing before him, was an alien figure. At first, he thought it was a projection, an illusion, something created by the station's advanced technology. But no, this figure wasn't an image. It was real. The alien woman stood there, glowing with an ethereal light, her features graceful and otherworldly. She had long, silver hair that shimmered in the dim light, and her eyes were a deep shade of violet, almost hypnotic in their intensity. Her form was humanoid, but there was something undeniably alien about her, something that felt both familiar and impossible. "Welcome, Jason Green," she said, her voice clear and calm, yet filled with an ancient wisdom. "I have been waiting for you." Jason froze. The alien's words echoed in his mind, sending chills down his spine. This wasn't a coincidence. This was real. The bond Maris had spoken of it was about to begin, and Jason wasn't ready for what was coming. Jason stood frozen at the entrance of the abandoned research station, staring at the alien before him. The figure was not a hologram, not a projection. She was real, and she had been waiting for him. Every instinct in his body screamed to run, to turn around and escape back to the safety of his ship, but something about her presence held him in place, as if her very existence demanded his attention. The alien woman was tall, her silver hair flowing around her like a halo. She had a regal quality to her, an aura of ancient wisdom and power. But there was something else too. Something human about her eyes. They were deep violet, so rich and full of emotion that it almost felt as if she were looking into his soul. She stepped forward slowly, her movements graceful, almost fluid, as though she were part of the very air around her. Jason's heart raced as he tried to find his voice. Who are you?" he managed to ask, his voice barely a whisper. He felt both awe and fear surge through him, in equal measure. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't real. This was something he could explain away with science, with logic, but nothing about this made sense. The more he stared at her, the more his rational mind began to crumble. "I am Elara," the woman said, her voice soft, yet it carried an undeniable authority. "I am of the X-Wrath." The words hit him like a jolt of electricity. The X-Wrath. The same species that Maris had spent so much time studying, the ones she believed could bond with other species. Jason had never put much stock in her theories. He thought it was just another misguided attempt at connecting with something beyond human understanding. But now, standing before him, was proof living, breathing proof that Maris had been right all along. Jason shook his head, trying to clear the confusion that was rapidly clouding his mind. "X-Wrath?" he asked, his voice shaky. "I thought you were extinct." Elara smiled, though it was a sad, knowing smile. "Many believe we are gone, but we are not. We have merely evolved beyond the physical." Jason frowned, not understanding what she meant. "What do you mean? Are you telling me you're a ghost? Some kind of energy being?" "No," Elara said, her voice firm. "I am very real, but my people have learned how to transcend physical form. We have discovered that true connection, true understanding, lies not in the body, but in the mind and spirit. Our bond with others goes beyond the senses. It is something deeper." Jason swallowed hard, his mind racing. "A bond?" he repeated. "What are you talking about?" Elara nodded, her violet eyes locking with his. "The X-Wrath have spent eons seeking to understand the power of connection. To bond with another species on a level that goes beyond communication. To share thoughts, feelings, experiences. To merge, in a sense." Jason felt a chill run down his spine. "You're telling me you want to bond with me?" Elara's gaze softened. "Not just me, Jason. We want to bond with you. Humanity, your species, is unlike any we have encountered. You are on the cusp of something great, something that could change the course of the galaxy. But only if you understand the power of unity." Jason shook his head again, disbelieving. This was impossible. The very idea of it sounded like the stuff of science fiction, of fairy tales. He was a scientist, grounded in facts and data. How could this be real? "You're asking me to believe." "What?" he said, his voice thick with doubt. "That humans can somehow bond with your species telepathically? Emotionally? That we could merge?" "Yes," Elara said simply. "The X-Wrath have shared our consciousness with countless species across the stars. We have learned, grown, and evolved through our bonds. But we are not alone in this universe. There are other forces at work, forces that will stop at nothing to prevent unity. Forces that threaten the very existence of all life." Jason blinked, trying to process her words. He had heard rumors of dark forces lurking in the far reaches of space, of alien races that preyed upon weaker civilizations, but it always seemed distant, theoretical, nothing more than speculation. The idea that they might be real, and that humanity could play a pivotal role in stopping them, seemed like the kind of story he would dismiss as fantasy. But standing here, with Elara's words hanging in the air, he couldn't deny that something was stirring inside him. Something he had never felt before. A pull, an instinctive recognition that perhaps this wasn't just nonsense. Maybe Maris had been right all along. "Why me?" Jason asked, his voice quiet. "Why choose me? I'm just a scientist. A researcher. There are millions of humans on Earth. Why not someone else?" Elara's gaze softened even more, her expression almost tender. "It is not by chance that you are here, Jason. The bond chooses those who are ready. You have been selected not just for your knowledge, but for your potential. You see the universe through the eyes of logic, but you are beginning to see something more. Your mind is open. Your heart is searching for something beyond the data. Jason's chest tightened. The words she spoke resonated with him in a way he couldn't explain. He had always prided himself on being rational, on keeping his emotions separate from his work, but now, it was as if he was being asked to look deeper, to reach beyond his own limitations. "You're asking me to trust you," he said, more to himself than to her. "I am not asking you to trust me," Elara said gently. "I am asking you to trust what you can't yet understand. I am asking you to embrace the unknown. Only then will you realize what you are truly capable of." Jason felt the weight of her words pressing on him. The fear, the doubt, the skepticism. All of it seemed so small in the face of what she was offering, what she was promising. Still, a part of him resisted. He wasn't ready for this. He couldn't be. There were too many unknowns, too many questions. What would it mean to bond with her? With the ex-Wrath? What would it do to him? What if he lost himself in the process? But another part of him, the part he had always kept hidden, buried deep beneath his logical mind, was drawn to the idea. It was the same part of him that had always craved discovery, that had yearned for something more, something greater. Jason took a deep breath. "And what happens if I refuse?" Elara's expression darkened, though it wasn't angry. It was more sad. "If you refuse, Jason, you will never understand what you could become. You will be left behind, watching as others rise to the challenge. Humanity will have its moment, but if you are not ready, you will miss it. You will miss the chance to change everything." Jason felt his heart pound in his chest. There was no going back from this. The choice he made here and now would determine everything: his future, humanity's future, the future of the galaxy. He had never believed in destiny. He had never believed in fate. But something about Elara's presence, something about the weight of her words, made him wonder if the universe had brought him here for a reason. Maybe Maris had been right all along. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and made his decision. "Okay," he said quietly. "I'll do it. I'll bond with you." Elara smiled then, a smile that was both ancient and full of hope. "You have made the right choice, Jason Green. Now, let us begin." As Elara reached out to him, Jason felt a surge of energy, something powerful, something alive, flow through him. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced. His mind seemed to stretch, expand, as if it were reaching out to connect with hers. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was truly seeing. But as the connection deepened, so did the sense of danger. The warning Elara had given him echoed in his mind. There were forces out there, dark forces, and they were already watching. And Jason knew that his life and the fate of humanity was about to change forever. Jason felt the change before he even understood what was happening. The moment his mind connected with Elara's, it was as though the universe had shifted, opening up a new dimension of reality he had never known existed. His senses heightened, his thoughts expanded, and for the first time in his life, he truly felt like he was seeing the world, all of it. Not just the small piece of it he had been studying for years. At first, it was overwhelming. The flood of knowledge, emotions, and experiences pouring into his consciousness was so intense that Jason thought he might lose control. He could feel Elara's thoughts swirling within him, her presence filling every corner of his mind. Her ancient wisdom, the centuries of knowledge she had gathered over her long life, seemed to merge with his own. He could sense her past, the lives of her people, the struggles and victories of the ex-Wrath. But alongside that, there was something else, something new, something raw. Jason's thoughts flickered between his own experiences and those of Elara. He could hear her voice in his head, calm yet insistent, guiding him as the bond deepened. "You're doing well, Jason," Elara's voice echoed within him. "You must allow the connection to grow, to fully understand what it means to bond. You must let go of your fear." Jason gritted his teeth, trying to focus. The flood of emotions, her feelings, was so alien yet so familiar. His heart raced as he fought to keep his thoughts together. The connection between them felt like it was reaching into every part of him, touching memories he had long forgotten, stirring feelings he had kept buried deep inside. "Let go of your doubt, Jason." Alara's voice came again, gentle but firm. "You must embrace the bond. Only then will you see what you can become." Jason clenched his fists, trying to focus. It was difficult, so much harder than he had imagined. His mind kept wanting to pull away, to shut down. But the bond was too strong, too persistent. It wasn't just about sharing knowledge. It was about something deeper, something human. He began to understand what Alara meant. The bond wasn't just a link between minds. It was a connection of hearts and souls. A union of everything that made both of them who they were. It wasn't just Alara's knowledge he was gaining, it was her feelings, her experiences. He could sense her hope for humanity, her desire to see Earth rise to greatness. But he could also feel her fear, the fear of what might come if the bond was not completed. "You're not just learning about me, Jason." Alara's voice whispered in his mind. "You're learning about yourself. This bond will awaken something within you. You will see the world as you've never seen it before. But it's a choice. You must choose to embrace it. All of it." Jason's head spun. He had always prided himself on his rational mind, on his ability to separate emotion from fact. But this was something different. His mind was no longer just his own. It felt like he was losing himself, like he was becoming a part of something much larger. And with that came a sense of terror. What if he couldn't control it? What if the bond swallowed him whole, leaving him nothing but a puppet to the will of the Xrath? But then, as though sensing his hesitation, Alara's presence softened, calming him. She was no longer a distant voice. She was here, inside him, guiding him. "You are not alone in this, Jason," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "I am with you, always. Together, we can see things no one else can. Together, we will show the universe what humanity is capable of." The words echoed in his mind, soothing his fear. Slowly, he began to relax, allowing himself to fully experience the connection. The more he embraced it, the clearer everything became. He saw visions of the Xrath, their rise to greatness, their downfall, and their ultimate evolution. He saw worlds he had never known existed, civilizations thriving in the stars, all connected by bonds like the one Alara had offered him. It wasn't just the knowledge that was powerful, it was the realization that humanity could be part of something much greater than itself. They could belong to this greater whole. They could evolve, rise, and make a mark on the galaxy. But as Jason's understanding deepened, so did his awareness of the danger that lay ahead. The bond with Alara had shown him not only the potential of humanity but also its vulnerabilities. There were enemies, dark forces watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Jason's mind shifted, pulling away from the peaceful visions of unity and connection to a vision of something far darker. In the depths of space, hidden behind clouds of dust and energy, an alien fleet was gathering. He could feel the malice radiating from them, a cold, calculated presence that filled him with dread. This wasn't just a random threat. This was something purposeful. These beings, whoever they were, had sensed the awakening of humanity, and they were preparing to act. "The enemies are coming, Jason." Alara's voice was tense now, laced with urgency. "The bond has been sensed. They will stop at nothing to destroy it. To destroy us." Jason's heart raced. The weight of the situation hit him all at once. The connection between him and Alara wasn't just a gift, it was a weapon. And if the wrong people, wrong beings got their hands on it, everything humanity had worked for could be destroyed. "Who are they?" Jason asked, his voice tight. "What do they want?" Alara's response was heavy with sorrow. "They are the Varkos, a race of conquerors bent on domination. They seek to control the minds of others, to subjugate entire civilizations. They fear the bond. They fear that if humanity bonds with the Xrath, We will become too powerful, too united. We must stop them before they can reach Earth. Jason's pulse quickened. He felt a surge of adrenaline as the weight of the situation settled over him. The future of humanity wasn't just about the bond. It was about survival, about preventing an ancient, ruthless alien race from snuffing out everything they had worked for. And now, for the first time in his life, Jason understood what Maris had meant when she told him the universe had ways of making people face truths they didn't want to see. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was part of something bigger, something that could either save humanity or destroy it. His mind raced, filled with questions, with plans. But one thing was clear: he couldn't do it alone. "We need to warn Earth," Jason said, the determination in his voice growing stronger. "We need to prepare." Alara's presence within him grew stronger, like a force he could now tap into. "We will warn Earth. But we must be careful. The Varkos are already aware of us. They will strike soon. We must be ready. Not just to fight, but to unite the galaxy. To show them that humanity is not a species to be underestimated." Jason nodded, his mind now fully focused. The bond between him and Alara had shown him the potential of humanity, what they could achieve if they learned to connect, to work together. But it had also shown him the danger they faced. The Varkos weren't just invaders, they were predators, bent on wiping out anything they couldn't control. As Jason prepared to leave the station, Alara's voice echoed in his mind once more. "Remember, Jason, this is not just about you. It's about all of humanity. The choice you make now will shape the future of the galaxy. Will you fight for peace, for unity? Or will you let fear destroy everything we've built?" Jason took a deep breath, stepping out into the cold, alien landscape. The stars above seemed to shine brighter now, like beacons of hope in the vast, dark void of space. There was so much at stake. And yet, for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of purpose. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was part of something much greater. Jason's heart raced as the Varkos ship grew larger on the horizon. The faint hum of its engines echoed across the barren landscape of the alien moon, a sound that chilled him to his core. It wasn't just one ship. There were more. He could sense them. Even without the bond with Alara, the Varkos were coming. The feeling of dread that had been growing in his chest ever since Alara had warned him about them intensified now. The Varkos weren't just another alien race, they were predators, ruthless and calculating. And they had found humanity's secret. The bond between Jason and Alara had revealed it, had exposed humanity's potential to the galaxy, but it had also drawn the attention of those who saw it as a threat, a weapon to be destroyed. Jason turned to look at Alara, who stood beside him on the cold, rocky surface of the moon. Her presence in his mind was stronger than ever. Her thoughts and feelings intertwined with his. He could feel her fear, but also her resolve. She wasn't afraid of death. She had transcended it long ago. But what terrified her was the thought of the Varkos succeeding in their mission. If they were allowed to invade, to dominate, it wouldn't just be the end of the X-Wrath. It would be the end of everything they had worked for, everything they had built in the galaxy. "We need to get to Earth," Jason said, his voice urgent. "Now, before they get any closer." Alara's presence in his mind pulsed with a deep understanding. "I know, Jason. But we are not alone. The bond you share with me, it is not just with me. There are others who will come, others who will help you. You must trust them." Jason nodded, though the doubt in his heart was still there. Who else could help? The Varkos were powerful, their fleets massive, their technology advanced. But what other choice did they have? Humanity didn't have time to wait for help. They had to take action. "I'll prepare the ship," Jason said, turning toward the small vessel that had brought him to the station. He knew Alara's words were true. There were others out there, other species who might understand the importance of what was happening. But the thought of facing the Varkos without an army, without allies, was terrifying. Jason's mind raced as he hurried back to the ship. He had to warn Earth. He had to make them understand what was at stake. The Varkos wouldn't stop until they had crushed humanity's potential. Until they had wiped out everything that could challenge their dominance. And Jason was the only one who knew how to stop them. As he entered the cockpit, his fingers flew over the controls, the ship's systems flickering to life. Elara's voice filled his mind once again. You are not alone, Jason. You will never be alone. The bond we share is just the beginning. Trust in it. Jason felt the weight of her words, and for the first time since he had left Earth, he felt a sense of purpose. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He wasn't just a researcher. He was part of something much bigger. Something that could change the fate of the galaxy. But even as the ship's engines hummed to life, Jason couldn't shake the nagging feeling that it was already too late. The Varkos were closing in. They had to be stopped. But could he, just one man, really stand against them? The ship shot into the stars, the familiar blue glow of the hyperdrive engine surrounding them. Jason's eyes darted to the viewport as the space around them twisted and bent, the stars stretching out into streaks of light. He had done this 1,000 times before, but now it felt different. Now, every second counted. Elara was silent for a moment, as though contemplating something. You must remember, Jason. The bond you share with me is not just about knowledge. It is about connection. Unity. Humanity must come together if they are to survive. This is not a war you can win alone, but you are the key to opening the door. You are the one who will lead them. Jason gripped the controls tighter, his thoughts spinning. Lead them? He wasn't a leader. He was just a scientist. What did he know about leading a planet? Let alone a galaxy. But as he thought about the lives at stake, about the future of humanity, a feeling of responsibility surged within him. This was bigger than him. Bigger than anything he had ever imagined. Trust yourself, Jason. Elara's voice echoed through his mind, softer now, as though speaking directly to his heart. You are stronger than you know, and you are not alone. Jason swallowed hard, trying to steady his nerves. He glanced at the readouts. They were still a few hours away from Earth's orbit. But the Varkos fleet was getting closer by the minute. He didn't have time to waste. He needed to act, to prepare Earth for what was coming. As they neared the Earth system, Jason opened a secure communication channel to the Earth Federation. The image of a stern-looking officer appeared on the screen. Colonel Green, what's the status of your mission? The officer asked. Jason could see the skepticism in the colonel's eyes, the same skepticism he had carried for years. But this was different. The world was about to change, and they needed to be ready. We've got a problem, Jason said, his voice steady but urgent. I've encountered a threat, a race of aliens called the Varkos. They're coming, and they're here to destroy us. They want to wipe out everything we've worked for, everything we've built. We don't have time to waste. The colonel's expression shifted. Jason could see the doubt in his eyes, but also the flicker of recognition. He had heard the rumors, the whispers of other species in the galaxy. The Federation had always known that humanity wasn't alone in the stars, but they hadn't prepared for this. They hadn't prepared for a species like the Varkos. Are you saying the Varkos are real? The colonel asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. I'm saying they're real, Jason replied, his voice tight. And they're coming for us. We need to prepare. We need to unite humanity like we've never done before. I can't do this alone. But together, we might have a chance. The colonel nodded slowly, his expression darkening. Understood. I'll send word to the Federation Council. We'll begin preparations. Get back here as quickly as you can, Colonel. Earth needs you. Jason didn't wait for another word. He cut the transmission and turned the ship toward Earth. But even as the blue and green planet came into view, he knew that their battle was just beginning. The Varkos fleet was already here. As Jason's ship entered Earth's atmosphere, he could see the dark shadows of the enemy vessels hanging like a cloud in the sky. They were massive, their designs sleek and menacing, their weapons aimed directly at the heart of humanity. Jason's heart pounded in his chest. He had no illusions about how this would end. The Varkos weren't going to negotiate. They weren't going to try and reason with humanity. They wanted total domination, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get it. But Jason wasn't going to let that happen. Not while he still had breath in his body. Not while humanity still had a chance. The bond between him and Alara burned stronger than ever. It wasn't just the knowledge she had shared with him that gave him strength now. It was the unity, the realization that humanity had the power to rise above the darkness, to become something greater than itself. Jason gripped the controls of the ship and set a course for the heart of the battle. He knew what he had to do. The future of humanity, the future of the galaxy, depended on it. And as he approached the looming shadows of the Varkos ships, he heard Alara's voice in his mind once more, a final whisper of encouragement. Remember, Jason, the bond will always be with you. You are never alone.